So, when you hear the name Dostoevsky, what comes to mind? Probably epic novels, right? Super intense characters, all that psychological drama. But what if I told you his books were more than just stories? What if, hidden inside them, is a powerful answer to a really modern problem? That creeping feeling that maybe life is meaningless.
And hey, that's not just my opinion. That's a direct quote from a pretty heavy hitter, an Italian existentialist philosopher named Luigi Pareyson. He said, Dostoevsky's novels are pure philosophy. I mean, that's a huge claim, right? Pareyson basically argued that if you're only reading Dostoevsky for the story, you're kind of missing the point. You have to see him as a philosopher, someone tackling the biggest questions we can possibly ask.
So, for this explainer, let's do just that. Let's dive into Dostoevsky's world, but we're going to look at it through Pareyson's lens. We're going to see how these novels aren't just fiction, they're like a weapon in the fight against that feeling of meaninglessness, a roadmap, baby, for finding purpose when it feels like there is none.
Okay, so before we can get to the cure, we have to understand the disease. Every good story has a villain, right? And in this philosophical drama, the villain is this huge idea that Dostoevsky was obsessed with, the nihilistic onslaught. It's that little voice in the back of your head, that creeping doubt that asks, what if none of this matters? What if it's all for nothing?
All right, let's put a pin in that word nihilism. What does it actually mean? Well, boiled down, it's the belief that life has no built-in meaning, no purpose, no real value. And Pareyson saw this as the core crisis of our time, what he called a post-Christian culture. See, when the old religious and social structures that gave people meaning start to crumble, you're left staring into a void. And the big question is, what's staring back at you?
And this is where things get really interesting, because you've got these two absolute giants of thought, both staring into that same empty space. On one side, you have Friedrich Nietzsche. We all know him. He's famous for being the guy who diagnosed the problem. He was like the prophet who warned us what would happen. But here's Pareyson's big point. Dostoevsky was doing something totally different, and he was doing it even earlier. Dostoevsky didn't just point at the void and say, look out. He walked right up to it, stared it down, and tried to find a way through it. He was looking for the antidote.
So what is this antidote? How does he do it? Well, for Dostoevsky, everything, and I mean everything, comes down to one single, powerful, and honestly, kind of dangerous idea: human freedom. And we're not just talking about, political freedom here. He meant something way deeper. It's the fundamental truth of what it means to be human. And it's both our greatest gift and maybe our greatest danger.
Just let that sink in for a minute. Dostoevsky is saying that freedom isn't about choosing between a good option and a bad option. No, it's way more radical than that. It's the power that comes before good and evil even exist as concepts. It's this raw, primal ability to forge your own path, to create your own values. And that's an absolutely terrifying amount of responsibility to put on a person.
So with this incredible freedom, Dostoevsky sees a fork in the road. There are really only two ways you can go. Path number one is what you could call obedience to truth. That's when you choose to use your freedom to connect with something bigger than yourself: faith, meaning, God. That path can lead to salvation. Then there's path number two, rebellion. This is when your freedom becomes all about you, just pure self-will, doing whatever you want. And that one leads to chaos and ultimately self-destruction.
And that question right there is the engine that drives pretty much all of Dostoevsky's novels. He's not just asking his characters, he's asking us. He's forcing you, the reader, to look in the mirror and ask, what are you going to do with this power? Is your freedom going to save you, or is it going to destroy you?
Now, it's really important to get this. These weren't just some abstract thoughts Dostoevsky had while sitting in a comfy armchair. No way. This entire intense philosophy, it wasn't born in a library. It was forged in the fire of some truly unimaginable suffering.
I mean, this is a man who was literally sentenced to death, lined up in front of a firing squad, and then pardoned at the very last second. After that, he was shipped off to a Siberian prison camp for years. He called it hell on earth. So you see, he didn't just theorize about meaninglessness in the void. He was thrown right into the middle of it.
And you can almost map out his transformation. First, there's the descent. He hits rock bottom in Siberia, just total despair. That's step one. Then, step two. While he's down there, he's forced to look that nothingness, that source of all nihilism, right in the eye. But then, and this is the most amazing part, step three is this wild, paradoxical discovery. He finds his faith again, not by getting out of hell, but by finding something in it. He found meaning through the suffering, not in spite of it.
Okay, so let's bring this all back to us, right here, right now. Why did Pareyson think that this, dark, heavy philosophy born in a prison camp was so important for the modern world? Well, because he believed it was exactly what we needed, a kind of shelter from the chaos of our own age.
And that's the exact word he used, a shelter. It's such a great metaphor. And we're not talking about some cozy little cabin here. It's more like a hardened bunker, One that's built to survive that nihilistic onslaught we talked about. It's a place you can go when you're trying to figure out this whole meaning crisis for yourself.
So, what's inside this shelter? What's the cure? Well, the first thing you have to know is that it's not a list of easy, feel-good answers. It's not naive optimism. Dostoevsky's philosophy doesn't ignore evil or pretend suffering isn't real. Just the opposite. It's a faith that is hard-won. It's a belief system that's strong precisely because it has stared directly into the abyss and it didn't blink.
And that right there is really the crucial point, the big takeaway from both Dostoevsky and Pareyson. Real, authentic meaning isn't something you find by running away from the dark parts of life. You can't ignore them. You have to confront them. You have to walk right through the darkness. Because true purpose, real meaning, it's forged in that fire, not by avoiding it.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question to chew on, doesn't it? Is it possible that real faith, the kind that can actually withstand anything, isn't something you find when everything is bright and easy? Is it something you can only truly discover after you've stared into the abyss? That's the challenge Dostoevsky puts to us, and it's definitely something to think about.